Alright, we're live. Okay. I'll upload this so that if you didn't get some of the notes, you're able to get them online. Okay? On our classroom website. What's the classroom website? Everyone make sure you have this somewhere. That English teacher .weebly.com. Okay. So we're going to talk about the archetypal hero, and we're going to see what they all have in common. And when you guys can recognize these things that are in common between our different epic heroes, I think you're going to have a much deeper understanding of like what's happening in the movie. Alright. This part is not super important, but it's interesting. You don't have to necessarily write this down about Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, but you do need to write down what an archetype is. Carl Jung, he was a psychologist, and I assume Joseph Campbell was as well, and they developed this idea of the archetype. The root word of arch is like first. Like the archangel is the first angel, or the most important. Or archaeology, we're looking at like the first things that were on Earth. That's where the root comes from. And an archetype is a recurring pattern of images, situations, or symbols that we see in mythology, in religion, in art, in dreams, in cultures around the world. No, I still haven't seen it. Sorry, thanks, bye. Does anyone know what an archetype is? Like, what's a common archetype that you see in movies? Like, the damsel in distress is a type of archetype. Like the woman who's pretty and needs saving. That's an archetype you see in many movies, right? Spider-Man, what archetypes are in Spider-Man? Mary Jane. She's about to fall from a ledge of a building.
Yeah. When the thing crashes into the building?
I was about to say Joker. Yeah, and he blew up the what's that thing called? Patio. What would you blow it up? She was about to fall.
Balcony?
Yeah, balcony.
A balcony, okay. She's about to fall. Can you think of any other movies where a girl is like about to die and a guy saves her?
The one with the long hair.
Talk about it with your partners, and then we'll call on some people.
The building. Big top building.
Tangled?
Yeah. I was hoping to get Elsa with a pencil. Tangled is probably, most Disney movies are epic stories. Have you ever heard? You've never seen their previews, like the epic story of. Many movies have that as like the preview, like the voiceover. That's like, watch as the epic story of blah 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 blah. But everyone got this stuff. Y'all have to learn how to write quickly and abbreviate. Like religion, you could just write R-E-L-I-G. You should know that that means religion. Or culture, you can just write cult and then period. You don't have to necessarily write all the thes in there, like dreams of culture around world. You would know, okay, around the world. Alright, we're going to move on. Archetypal hero traits. These are some things that you're going to see, and we're going to do a bunch of different activities all during the next 4.5 weeks to get you to see that our archetypal hero, so one of the archetypes is the hero. We'll have these kinds of things common to them. So they have unusual circumstances at birth. They leave their family and live with others. You guys can write these down, but write it quickly. They have a traumatic event that leads to a quest. Sometimes they have a special weapon. They get supernatural help sometimes. And now, they can be an archetypal hero even if they don't have all of these. Even if they had one or two of these, they would still fit that archetypal hero. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Is it interesting at all?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we're going to study the Odyssey, which was written 2,000-3,000 years ago. And we still follow the same kind of pattern. What is it about humans that we like the same kind of story patterns? And even when you try to think of a brand new story that no one's ever thought of, many times it's following the archetypal epic hero's journey, or it's doing something to the archetypal hero's journey in order to make a point. Yes?
Are you gonna read
So we'll read a few excerpts from the Odyssey as class. Sometimes you'll do it individually, but a lot of the time I'll be reading aloud. I think it's useful to read aloud because then you hear the words pronounced and you're like, oh, that's how that word's spelled. Because many of you guys know the words, but you don't know how it's spelled. Many times they go on a journey and they have some kind of unhealable wound. Many times there's separation from their father and they have atonement with the father. And spiritual apotheosis. And we'll talk about what apotheosis means. Yes.
So if someone's father leaves them, does that mean they're an archetypal hero?
Many times that's one of the traits that an archetypal hero has.
They're not a hero?
Alright, so what I want you to do after you've written those, I want you to write down a character from a movie or a book that you can think of that has, like next to unusual circumstances of birth, write down next to it someone that you can think of that has that.
I wrote them all like sideways together.
You wrote them all sideways together?
Like I wrote one of them for a comment.
Oh. You might not want to take your notes like that in the future because it's harder to study a big blob as opposed to like looking at a list. But if you need to on a separate sheet, you could just number these like 1, put a circle over each one in your list, and then say like number 1, you think of Harry Potter. Number 2, you think of Simba. Like unusual circumstances of birth, the fact that Harry Potter has that lightning bolt on his head, that's kind of unusual. Leaving their family and living with others. Remember how Simba goes off into the jungle, learns Hakuna Matata, and then has to come back and face his troubles. You guys all saw The Lion King?
Yeah.
It's one of the best.
Can we watch it?
Perhaps we'll watch an excerpt. All right, so when you've gotten this list written down, I want you to go through it. Yes, sir. I'll read you through that when you turn in your notebook at the end of the class. All right, so you're allowed to talk with your friends as you kind of write down like the ones that you already know.
Did you save someone? Wait, you don't have to. Who have you saved?
Yes. Can you say who's an archetype here? Elias, because why?
Yes. Atonement with father.
Atonement?
Yeah.
What is atonement?
He said it's when your father leaves you.
No, that'd be abandonment by your father. But atonement is there has been some kind of like separation between them, and you make some kind of sacrifice that, or the father will make a sacrifice to bring the two back together, or the relationship is brought back together through something. Related to what? Stop?
And like jigsaw.
So how would you say that saw would be reflective of that?
No, like shoes. Like when well,
The Flash.
oh true.
With the father. But it's with the mother.
Okay, so would that still be okay?
Oh no, because the father's not so good.
Well, okay,
No, but
so
they-
sometimes though, the atonement though, I think if you're like, I don't even know how to analyze these texts or these movies, you could say like, instead of having the typical or the archetypal reconciliation with the mother or with the father, in this movie or book, the protagonist or the hero has reconciliation or makes atonement with their mother, which explores some kind of other aspect.
so they come back together.
Yeah. So, but why do you think, you could perhaps think, why does the movie maker make it so that he's having atonement with the mother instead of the father?
My dad is
Oh my god.
Many interesting people we know are like that. Like when we think of like someone who's heroic, many times their lives are like this. It's not just a work of fiction.
I mean, because he's family.
He left his family.
Yeah.
He's trying to be on the hero's journey. Does he have a special weapon?
Right, he has a gun somewhere. He's a taxi guy. Yeah.
Does he get supernatural help from anyone?
Yeah, got it.
Does he have to prove himself on a quest?
He's in like 3 hours away from the city. He's a taxi. He has to go on that taxi.
Until he left. How about
Do you know what it means? What does theo mean? Like theology, atheist. What is that?
you don't believe?
So theo has to do with like God. So atheists think there is no God. Theology is the study of God. Apocalypse is when your hero becomes like a god, or in fact becomes God. Yes. You're done? Okay. Keep it in your journal and I'll look at it. Turn it in your journal. Is everyone writing down their different people they've thought of for all of these different aspects? Okay. We're taking notes. It's all videotaped too, so you'll be able to get whatever shots.
Yeah, he said he got you. He even showed me.
I don't know,
It's like
so she said it's 3 times.
you'll say, make sure you're taking notes.
Like the lights really but then
Hold on, everyone, let's listen to a question from Jacquez. Do they have to leave, or
Yeah, like, do they have to leave? Or I don't know of superheroes that left their family.
do you think that they're kind of like superheroes though, or that they still meet the hero's archetypal characteristics?
Yeah.
Okay, so does it, and you were writing, so you might not have heard this, but a character doesn't have to have all of these in order to be an archetypal hero. Eduardo and Giselle.
What?
A character does not have to, everyone listen, you can't not get this. Even if they only have a couple of these, they can still be a hero.
What about Superman? Well, they
They send him
but he's still leaving them. That's-
Right. So these are like, general statements, but there's variations of them. And there's like lists and lists. People have written whole books on like archetypal heroes and things like that. So it is important to say, well, it's kind of like that, but not exactly. That's still part of the archetypal hero journey. And the slight difference is also something that you can point out when you're analyzing something. If you can think this way, you'll have, remember when I say like, hey, write a paper, analyze the text? If you're just like, okay, I'm analyzing the text, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to be analyzing. All I see is a kid, he goes on an adventure, and then someone cuts off his foot, and then he finishes the adventure. What's the deeper meaning? Well, one of the biggest things that you're going to see, that a hero's journey is almost always going to be about self-discovery. They're on a quest to discover more about themselves. They might also be on a quest to do something else, like the search for the Holy Grail. They might be trying to find that. Or like King Arthur, he goes on this quest to find the sword, which ends up being Excalibur, right? That's worse. I don't remember the story of King Arthur very well. I was never really into that time period. But are there any questions about how like any of these would work? Can everyone think of one?
Yeah.
All right, let's just go through quickly. Just raise your hand if you have got this. Okay, Jake, what unusual circumstances of birth? Superman. What's unusual about his? He came in a spaceship. That's unusual. Okay, leaves family, lives with others.
Me.
Eduardo. You?
Yeah.
You left your family?
Yeah.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, I'm playing.
That's a lie.
Okay, so maybe a movie or a book or a person.
You play his dad.
The Flash.
The Flash. What happens with him?
His mom dies and his father goes to jail. Well, he killed her and he goes to his mission.
Okay, well, that would fit that. Traumatic event leads to their quest.
That's a Flash, boy.
So that's when something happens.
Green
That
Arrow.
has to send Superman back to Earth, well, how like go to Earth and everything. That's where his quest begins.
Yeah. Does everyone remember that? They've seen
Yeah.
Superman?
That
Okay. All right. Special weapon. Sam.
Mega Man, Kansas.
Huh? Luke Skywalker. What does he have? A lightsaber. Supernatural help. Does anyone know supernatural means what? They're not natural. Someone who's supernatural is above the natural world, which is like a god or like a fairy godmother. You'll say
Did they say Deadpool?
Deadpool.
Yeah,
Did anyone say that? Deadpool. How would that be?
cause like when they shoot him, he still hit, or they cut his hand off, or well, he cut his hand off. It like it made again.
And it grows back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be that they have. That can be kind of like a special weapon, is his ability to grow back body parts. But yeah, that would totally work. Supernatural help. What did you guys put? Or like Cinderella has the fairy godmother.
Batman.
Batman has what?
Justice League. Butler.
The Justice League. Is that supernatural? Like part god?
So if you count Superman.
Okay. I mean, I think that could work. They are above the natural realm.
I know it.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, who's supernatural helping him?
Spider-Man.
That is supernatural. That could also be like the traumatic event that leads him to this quest for like, how do I get rid of Sam. Moses, he has what? He has like an experience with God in a burning bush.
Iron Man.
Good, okay.
Wait, what's Supernatural?
Anytime there's like a fairy godmother or like the spirit of someone's ancestor comes.
Shrek.
Shrek is an epic hero, but
He's an ugly hero.
he's not very, he's like the anti-hero. And we'll talk about how there's the anti-hero, like the kind of clumsy, unattractive, bumbling. creature thing that still is the hero of the story. No, I don't think any of you guys did that.
What about food?
Prove himself on a quest. Obviously, Shrek has to go and save
was
Princess
Yeah,
Fiona.
I have three, all the three names you said the other one.
You have all three of
Because
the
my
Shrek.
sister is always like,
I hated the first.
I have only seen the first one, maybe the second one too. Yeah.
that was
All right. What about the journey in an unhealable wound?
Iron Man.
Iron Man, he goes on a journey and what's his unhealable wound?
That
The thing that's, yeah, he had to have a, was it his heart replaced with that?
Yeah, man.
It's like a little circle.
Okay, good. Anyone else think of another unhealable wound?
I get broken heart.
Hope.
Broken hearted sometimes? That's really good though, Eduardo, because sometimes the unhealable wound will be a broken heart, which is obviously a metaphor. Okay, atonement with Father. The Flash, does he have a moment where he ends up reconciling with his father?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Any other heroes?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. Obviously, if you guys go home and watch Star Wars and think about all of this, don't be like, wow, I see all of those things in that movie. Can anyone think of a spiritual apotheosis?
That movie, the one with the guy, the little thing, he does that thing and then the blue guy comes out.
what?
The genie?
Yeah.
Aladdin?
But he doesn't. But does Aladdin become a god or a genie?
Oh, Shazam! Shazam!
Shazam or Hercules, those definitely fit. Does Aladdin become a genie?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
he was friends with G.
He's just friends with the genie. That would be, which one would that fit in? If I have, he had supernatural help, yeah.
No.
Okay, good. So you'll see a lot of this in our stories that we study, and even in like short stories that you're probably reading right now. I imagine you'll find examples that you'll be like, wow, okay, this is my hero. And then many times, you know how we say when you read, if you look back at that yellow book on the wall, where it says predict what will happen next. If you know the story follows this kind of typical pattern, you should be predicting, okay, well, they had a weird birth, they're probably going to have to go on some kind of quest, and that's usually the conflict. Like the conflict in the story will be, you're supposed to go get this, but something is going to interfere with your ability. So with Odysseus, his quest is, he's been in the Trojan War, and it's going to be in the Odyssey that we read. He's been in the Trojan War. He was away for 10 years fighting, and now he wants to go home. Yet, he has angered the gods. So Poseidon, the god of the sea, has promised that Odysseus will never reach his home, and if he does, it will only be after a long time and after losing a lot. And so 10 years later, Odysseus is able to come home. But that journey is to his home, but he also learns a lot along the way. Let's go to the next slide. I think you guys probably all understand these aspects of the unusual birth. So often, their unusual birth, they're often in danger or born into royalty. You could write that down next to it. That's why I like the list, because you could write unusual birth and then a dash. You know, often in danger or born into royalty. So sometimes they're born, like Princess Diaries, she's born just ordinary, but then she finds out,
She's a princess.
she's actually a princess.
That's Tangled.
Tangled?
She finds out. She finds out like every time the birthday about 4
I haven't seen Tangled. I know Princess Sophia the First, or Sophia the First that my kid watches all the time. She finds out she's a princess. You don't have to write all these examples. So Luke is born with his aunt and uncle. Simba's born as a prince. Moses is put in a basket. King Arthur is in danger from Uther Pendragon's rivals. Yes. Just write that, often in danger or born into royalty. That's part of the unusual birth. Now, if the character doesn't have an unusual birth, is he still, or she's still going to be an archetypal character or hero? they don't have an unusual birth, yeah, they could still be an archetypal hero. What is one thing that you've noticed about all of this, by the way? Well, that we are taking notes. So what are you noticing about all of the examples that we've given for archetypal heroes? Is there something that you've noticed about them?
They're all heroes.
They are all heroes.
Appreciate.
It's kind of cliche. What types of people are we choosing? Ordinary people. I want you to start thinking a little bit even deeper than that. What gender are all the people that we named?
Men.
These are all men.
How about
Okay, except for Tangled and Princess Sophia and the Princess Diaries. But why? Like, notice they've all been princesses. So that's an interesting note. It plays into that kind of, women are only special if they find out they are a princess, or they find out they're actually more beautiful than they originally had started. Those are important things to note when because you want to view literature with a critical eye and say, should this be this way? Why is it this way? How can we make it better, or should it stay the same? So I think those are important questions. Also, what race are most of these people, besides lions? That's obviously. They're all white. Why do they have to be white? I think that's a really good question. Moses is,
Oh, the animation one? The movie
Share with me some of the things that you're talking about. About what? Because I noticed that when we pointed that out, it kind of triggered like a bunch of different conversations.
in the movie, the Green Lantern, he's white, but in the animation, he's black. What?
So in the comic strips, he was white.
Oh
In
yeah.
the movie, he was white, but in the animation,
Yeah.
He's black.
was it like a cartoon, like a comic book?
No, for show.
That was probably
Which one was older?
maybe black guy.
Him appearing as a black character was an older version?
I think yeah, he came to more power. Like because they give the ring up when they get too old to use it or something,
Right.
or they're about to die. So like they give the ring.
They gave it to a different race. Me neither. So sometimes, like in the comic books, they would have been white, but our modern day, like society, like people have tried to, I think there's more of a move towards people being more sensitive to the fact, like, why are all our heroes white men? So then we'll have like a Disney movie come out with a black main character who's also female. Like what?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
What was it called? The Incredibles. Yeah, a lot of these new movies are trying to, make up for the fact that we have like too many white male superheroes. All right. Princess, what's one comment you wanted to add? Everyone listen. Huh? Because I wrote down like, why are most of these white? Like all these superheroes and all these epic heroes that we named, except for maybe one or two, were white. Do you think that it's important to notice things like that?
Yeah.
When we think of our archetypal superhero or epic hero, the fact that almost all of the examples you gave, not just from me, these were examples you guys came up with. Most of these characters were white, and most of these characters were men. Do you think that is important for us to notice that?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
No, it's not important.
It's not important? What do you think that our stories influence the way we think about things? How do you think that having a narrative that says epic heroes are, even if we haven't explicitly thought this, are white and male, what does that narrative, how does that affect us as society? Racism? It could produce racism in what way? Hold on a second. It could produce racism in what way, Charlie?
You can't say it.
Discriminating black people or other race from being hero.
So you could end up discriminating against other races by thinking like they can't be the hero, or they aren't heroes or heroic. What else? Charlie? Good job.
It's like, it's not the whole heroes, but they could be heroes too.
Right.
Segments.
Right.
So it's how,
Like women can be heroes too, but this narrative influences us to think like, oh, women can't, like, you don't even consciously many times think, I mean, some people really are this like uneducated, that they'll be like, women can't be heroes, or, you know, black people can't be heroes. Like, there would be people who would say things like that. But most of us, it's a subconscious type thing where we're like waiting for a man to save us. This is why a lot of people have problems with a lot of the fairy tales to read to their kids nowadays, because people talk about it. People have talked about it a lot more as I've grown up. You know, I watched Disney movies, Disney princesses, didn't think anything of it, and my parents were like, they tried to make sure they didn't let us watch things that would negatively impact us. And they were always saying like, girls can do anything that guys can do, and whatever you want to do, you can do it. Don't let anything stop you or hold you back. But the movies that we were watching as kids were, you know, damsel in distress, Prince Charming comes and saves damsel in distress. Or true love's kiss will save you. So the thing that saves many women in these old stories is what? A kiss. And is it really true love if you just have a kiss after seeing each other for 3 seconds? Probably not true love. Okay, so let's I think that you guys are, oh wait, I went too fast. I think that you guys, if you can start thinking through a lot of these issues that we've brought up, and when you're reading a text, look for what is the text communicating that perhaps we didn't even see. So when you guys like on the, I guess it was DIDLS, the little acronym that we did for tone, one of the things that the D stood for when we do it, the things you're supposed to look at when you're analyzing a text. This is the diction, this is the imagery, this is the detail. In this one, it says make sure that you know things that are included but things that are also not included. So in these kinds of things, this would be a good place to point out, like, are there any characters of color? Are there any women characters that are doing things, you know, what kind of actions are women doing in this? What kind of characters are being portrayed by minority players? Or are there even any minority players present? So you guys might even remember back, maybe it was last year, they were, the media criticized, was it the Oscars, for not awarding many Oscars to people of color. And there was a lot of like, some people on one side were arguing one thing and other people were arguing another.
Yeah.
Why was that an issue? It was what? It was racist?
People were saying,
Some people were saying it was racist? Why were they saying it was racist?
because you don't see that in black.
Or like a movie with an all-black cast gets like, it's not just like, oh, it's a new movie. It's like, now a new movie, and it's the targeted audience. It's not like white people and Hispanic people and Asian people. It's like, okay, well, this is for black audiences. Even if they don't explicitly say that many times. There's not that. What?
It's like a movie about World War II. basically these pilots. No, it's not Saving Private Ryan. It's like
Elsa
the
and
pilots
Arlette.
trying Ukraine, right? From Germany, the guy that whites. So, and the cast is mostly black. I'm not even sure what the movie is called. I just know I watched it with my brothers.
Yeah, I haven't seen, I don't know which movie that is necessarily. Mr. Gill, do you want to add anything to this too?
I'm trying to figure out what Irving is
I think
saying.
it's Red Cells. I'm not sure.
It's Red Tail.
Red Tails.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Red?
It's like, yeah, how like during World War II, most of the women were working and all that because they were sending men to fight in World War II.
Right.
So there was like this, black pilots that had to go behind enemy lines and help, I think it was like bombers to bomb Germany. So,
So are you speaking to Ms. Morris's point?
yeah,
Where
that,
they
like, all
they
black
really
cast
couldn't,
and they're,
the Americans didn't believe that the Red Tails would be able to do what they did, which
Yeah.
was be supportive to them and protect them. Probably because of what you were saying, so many people had already made the world almost think that there couldn't be black heroes, even though these men were heroic in Red Tails. That's another informational, short
Maybe we can
reading
Yeah,
that is good for, we did that last year.
yeah,
And then I did the movies, actually,
yeah,
an excerpt, it wasn't a whole movie,
right.
but
We can
it
take a
was
look at it.
really good for the class,
Good.
under informational.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
very good, Irving.
Thank you, Irving. Nice work. So we want your eyes to be open to this aspect that many of you are like, I never really thought of it. I remember the first time a professor said, you know, why is it always mankind? Or we say he, when we don't know the gender, we just say like, when the author wrote this, he was saying, we just kind of assumed the author was a he. And I was like, man, this guy's just picking on like little things, like it's just not that big of a deal that we say mankind or he when we don't know the gender of something. But there's something that I think that most of us probably know, but we haven't really articulated, but words create reality. If you, and we've talked about this a lot. If you tell yourself over and over and over how worthless and stupid and insignificant you are, you might start seeming that way to other people. You also are making yourself into that. But if you are telling yourself a different narrative, you're not saying, I'm such a failure. Like if you're saying, like, I'm smart, I can do this. Nothing's gonna get in my way. You start to create that person inside of you. People start to see that reflected. And that confidence actually then kind of helps you create the reality that you want. Obviously you don't have control over everything, but words are very important. They create things. So I want you to notice how the archetypal epic hero that we're going to look at, Odysseus, he has all of these archetypal traits that we're talking about. They have a traumatic event, etc. But we also need to challenge that narrative and say, is this that only kind of archetypal epic hero that we can have? Is this, should we continue to use these types of stories and hold them up as our example of epic hero? Or can we find other examples as well? Because he is white, he is a male, and you'll see the way that he treats women it does not change his heroic status in this story. And a lot of our ideas about how things should be come from stories that we're told. So that's why it's really important, the kinds of books that you read, even if you're not conscious of all the subliminal or subconscious messages of the book. So, we're hoping to teach you some of those skills. So you don't want to write all of this kind of stuff. They many times have a traumatic event, their life is changed forever. So when Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle die, or when William Wallace's wife is killed in Braveheart, This one, Arthur pulls the sword from the stone. I don't really think of that as traumatic, but they're fitting that into that, I guess. And it's traumatic. It could also just be like a significant event in a character's life. Traumatic or significant. Like God speaking to Moses in the burning bush. That's like, whoa, not every day a bush speaks to you when it's on fire. Huh? All right, next one. Special weapon. Only the hero can wield his weapon. Notice it says his. And it probably is meaning generally women and men. But, and I didn't make this PowerPoint, but I'm using it to show you some of these things that only the hero can wield his or her weapon. But we assume many times, hero, it's a man. So Arthur's Excalibur is his sword, Luke's lightsaber, Moses' staff. With his staff he's able to produce all the plagues that come to Egypt, like turning the Nile to blood, or getting the night to fall instead of the sun shining. William Wallace's sword, Simba's claws. Perhaps not, you can't use this for everything. So this is obviously stretching it a bit. But if you want to get creative, obviously you can do that as long as you can justify it. But remember what I said, just because the character doesn't have every single one of these epic qualities doesn't mean they're not an epic hero. They have supernatural help, so sometimes they get spiritual guidance. Sometimes it's supernatural, but sometimes it's just kind of an old, wise thing or creature. So like Yoda or Obi-Wan Kenobi. King Arthur has the wizard Merlin. Moses has God. William Wallace, he has dreams of his dead father. And same with Simba, Mufasa's spirit kind of guides Simba. Or Rafiki, the old monkey. And you wrote down the examples that you guys already had in mind. Those of you who just came in, your homework is to go home and watch a movie. And with this list, I want you to write down aspects that you see the epic archetypal hero's journey. Watch it with a critic's eye. Don't just, oh, that's a cool movie. I like it. There's a lot of stuff that goes boom. I want you to analyze it. The hero many times proves himself. Notice how it says himself. The hero performs feats while on a quest. What is a feat? It's not one of these. F-E-A-T is what? If you defeat someone, this is where the word defeat comes from. But a feat that you do, an accomplishment. Are you taking notes?
Yes.
Okay. The journey and an unhealable wound. Many times the hero descends into hell or Hades. You'll see Odysseus goes down to the land of the dead, Hades. Can I go back? In a sec. Do you know of any other movie where the hero descends into a hell-like area?
The guy with the horn.
The guy with the horns?
Doughboy.
Doughboy?
Hellboy.
Hellboy, okay. I'm like, Doughboy? Does he descend into hell?
No, he was sentenced to cause where the devil comes and he takes over the world.
He was sentenced to where the devil comes from? Like hell?
Spawn.
You know the Apsy? Well,
Yeah.
when the devil takes over the world, in Judgment Day, basically.
Okay, like a judgment day.
He was sentenced to be part of that.
Oh, okay. Well, that would totally work in one of those, it would fit this criteria. Or sometimes the character goes to jail. And because you know that many times the hero's journey includes a hell-like place, you would more clearly see it's not just him going to jail, but this will be something that changes this person forever.
So any kind of war zone.
A war zone, that could be like descending into hell. I think everyone who's been in war would probably agree with that.
Forrest Gump doesn't have,
Where in Forrest Gump could it reflect this?
Oh, yeah, Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
I know, you know.
When he loses Bubba?
Yeah.
and then he is born with his legs like
So he's born with a disability. That is definitely something that sets him apart.
What his mom thinks.
His father is gone. When Bubba
he
dies,
leaves his family.
he leaves his family.
He starts that bubble country.
But where's the hell-like experience for him?
Vietnam.
Yeah, okay, I thought you were just pointing out the part where he says Bubba. Yeah, so he goes to Vietnam, that changes him. So I also think like when he goes on his run across the US, this is a place where he goes where normal humans, like most people don't just run across the US 3 times. Like, oh, I just figured I'd keep on running.
Yes, what about Hercules?
It's like literally my favorite movie. Hercules,
Yeah, you have to go save the girl's soul something.
he has to go save a girl's soul. Does he have to descend into Hades? Probably. I don't know exactly, but yeah, that would work. So sometimes it's metaphorically, they are metaphorically being like, okay, he's just going on a run, or he's just going to jail, or she is just going on a run and she's just going to jail. But sometimes they actually, in the story, go to hell. Either one,
Jesus Christ.
Jesus descends into hell.
Spawn. What's Spawn?
Spawn?
Spawn.
Tell us about Spawn.
He's a black guy who dies,
Yeah.
and he needs to build a dome, right? And so he protect his family.
He dies and then makes a deal with the devil to come back, and then what?
Like, and he comes, he's built a dome to come back to protect his family.
To protect his family.
And the devil gives him more powers.
He gets powers from the devil. So do you think that it's interesting how instead of like what we think of as supernatural help that characters many times get, he's getting it from the dark side of supernatural aspects, from the devil? So noticing that when you're analyzing it would be important. What is significant about the fact that he gets his powers from the devil as opposed to getting his powers from Zeus or God or a character that's normally a little bit more honored by society? Atonement with father. So a hero either redeems a father's evil deeds or reconciles with the father over wrongs done by the hero. So can you think of, I mean, most of you guys pointed ones of these out, but where there's a separation between them and the father. What?
Wait, separation or like just have to eat?
So do you think that bad deeds can separate you from someone?
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like if I am sneaking around, I probably don't want to like hang out with my mom very much because I'm like, hopefully she doesn't ask any questions. Or if I'm like smoking weed, I probably don't want to get really close to someone because then they're going to smell it and realize what I'm doing. So doing things that are wrong separates us.
Yeah, you can get arrested for that.
You can get arrested. You know, you sometimes just don't feel at peace with yourself. You're kind of sometimes separated from yourself in a way when you're doing the wrong things. You don't have that peace with yourself. Can anyone think of anything else?
A movie?
Like a movie where a character has to, because of a father's wrongdoing, go and do something that kind of saves the day, for lack of a better word, or reconciles things between them and their father. Or they reconcile with the father over wrongs done by the hero. So like there's a story in the Bible where a son, the prodigal son, has everyone heard that story? And I talk about this because you're gonna see this stuff in, like, people use the phrase a prodigal son. And prodigal just means that you're going off and being wasteful, and greedy, and doing whatever you want, being very wayward. So you could understand that, but if you also understand the parable, prodigal son, the son asks the father, basically he's like, I wish you were dead so I could get my inheritance. And he takes his inheritance before the father is dead and says, peace out. And his older brother stays at home And prodigal son goes off, does whatever he wants, spends all the money, prostitutes, drinking. He ends up poor and with a bunch of pigs eating their slop with them.
Like a wealthy kid.
Yeah, he's like a wealthy kid. I mean, his father had a huge amount of money, so he goes and squanders it all. And he's sitting there eating slop, and he's thinking, you know, my father's servants have it better than I do. I'm going to just go back and ask to be a servant. So after he finishes that, he goes, walks home, and his father sees him from far away, and he welcomes him home. So this is, he's like, I've been waiting for you. You were lost, and now you're found. You were dead, and now you're alive. So he like says, you're gonna, you know, we're gonna throw a party, put the like robe on you, you get the special ring, we're gonna kill the fattened goat and all this kind of stuff. And the older brother's like, I've only ever like been here, you've never once like thrown a party like this for me. So if you don't know that story, when someone calls someone a prodigal son, or they have that name said about them in the story, understanding that whole parable will help you understand the deeper meaning, the jealousy that perhaps is there, the irrational love that that father shows for the son. Most fathers, I mean, some fathers would be like, yes, they would act the same way, but some fathers would be like, you spent all my money, get out of here. So, what are your thoughts about that?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't know? What do you mean? I don't know. So that, sometimes that's going to be, it'll follow that kind of pattern.
That was a story that Jesus told concerning his father. And when we come back to him and ask for forgiveness for our sins, he treats us like the prodigal son did, the prodigal son's father did him. He says his example is, with open arms we are accepted when we want to come back to the fold. So it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful story, and it's very realistic.
Definitely. So this apotheosis, this is when a character reaches godlike status. And we have the heroes rewarded spiritually at the end of his life. Hercules, he's part god, part man. Sometimes the character journeys. There's a story called Pilgrim's Progress, and the main character, Christian, he goes to the celestial city and enters heaven at the very end and is able to live forever. So there are many different aspects. Have you guys seen a movie where a character kind of becomes godlike or supernatural at the very end?
You heard him? Did you say broke?
I don't know what that is.
It's not a movie, it's,
A game?
nope. No, it's
Cartoon
a
show?
It's
Talking
called-
about singing.
And sometimes they don't necessarily have to become supernatural. Maybe they just become godlike in the way that people revere them and worship them and think they're just so... Huh? Dora?
Say what?
Like Dora the Explorer? I'll see you in 4 periods. I understand. Hope you feel better.
What about that lady that sells sugar? She goes on the flying umbrella.
Oh, that's
Very
not
popular. Very popular. It's just a spoonful of sugar. That one? Yeah, she flies away at the very end. Like, they don't know where she goes. She goes back to where she came from. Maybe she was real, maybe
Oh,
not.
what about that ugly lady that her face is ugly and every time she hits her stick,
Every time she turns thick, something happens?
There's what?
I didn't know. Yes. Okay, awesome. Okay. Let's just go at,
Oh, I didn't heard him.
he just reports with the cafeteria, what? What did he say? Anyways, they'll tell, I'm sure they'll announce something. The proofs himself one? Was this helpful at all, guys? Yes. Do you feel like you understand stories a little bit more. Okay, so does everyone understand what their homework is? Watch a movie. With this, I want you to find any movie that you think has a hero. And maybe it's not someone who's like a superhero. You can choose like just a random movie and see if perhaps it follows the same pattern. Okay, so I'm going to write the assignment on the board. Make sure you have it before you leave.
Right? And it's right. So you're actually going to do this to
Alright, take a picture of this or copy this down. This is due tomorrow. You have to do it. Alright, watch a movie of with someone heroic. As you watch, write down the ways the hero demonstrates qualities of the archetypal hero. Does everyone understand what they're supposed to do? Who does not understand?
Go to one, two,
What's the movie called?
I swear to God, it's not.
I haven't seen it. It sounds kind of silly. Chicken Little? Sure. Alright, those of you who have late stuff, turn it in so you don't fail.
Did you write it down? Okay guys, hey, John, come back a second.
Peace out, Cub Scouts.
Everyone outside, let's wait for the sound. I mean, Charlie Chaplin. It's like Michael Jackson.
bladder infection. No, it's not. It's not ugly.
No, I know. Crazy.
Has your day been so far?
Great and uneventful, which is always better than.
You can't speak that out loud. We know that, Miss Morris. The second you say that, something's gonna happen.
Oh, I know. Talk about it.
Love your classroom. It's visually stimulating.
Thanks. Yeah, I refer to that good readers chart all the time during class. And I have like a inference board that I just wrote down how they're supposed to do inferences. And then these are over here, they're tracking their like standards charts.
Oh, they do it on their own? Okay, good. That's
No, I have to still do it after we finish this meeting.
That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about too.
Yeah, so this Vargas does it as well, but I've done this since I worked in Gwinnett. And I was the only one who did it in Gwinnett either, also, so.
Really?
But I put all their names here, and I'll print out their grades with their E numbers or student numbers, so this doesn't show them their grades.
Sure.
But this shows like, at a glance, like if a parent comes in and is like, oh, why's my kid got this grade? I can be like, oh, he's got like an 80-something because of grammar and vocab. These are the areas he's struggling in. Like he's really great at reading comprehension and literary analysis.
And they can see that in a quick snapshot. Okay,
exactly. And the students can also see like, so they set learning goals every day. If they're like, I don't know what kind of learning goal to set, they can always go to where they're struggling and be like, oh, I want to improve my writing today.
Or if they're awesome, they just get better at something.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then like I can group them very easily.
Right.
Go in the grade book and see okay which.
And this is 9th grade lit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you had really high passing percentage last year, right? So that's kind of what we want to make sure whatever it is you're doing, not that everyone does the exact same thing, but
yeah, but captures that.
Right, or is able to monitor progress, standards-based progress. And
yeah, I think that's been super valuable. Like that, I don't know how I do it without that. I have all the charts like that. I pulled them down after semester and changed them out. I forget where my ones from last year.
And so they know. Do they know the standards? Not the language of the standards, but like what each one corresponds to, so that if they are weak in one area, they know where they can go to get better. Like, do they use USA Test Prep at all?
Yeah, they use it a little bit, but I'm trying to think how I do this because sometimes it's hard to like articulate. You're like, oh yeah, I am doing that, but I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sometimes I've given them the assignment like, okay, and I don't like to use USA Test Prep tons, but I have said before, like the ones that you're struggling in, these are the strands that you would go on to practice them on USA Test Prep. So I want you to do a 20-question quiz on them.
Okay.
So
it's kind of like just another activity they can do to supplement what you're doing in class.
yeah.
Okay, good. But it's
Or
not
if they
gonna
want
be-
extra credit or something like that, like, or they're, why am I still failing? I'm like, well, you need to work on this. Here's a few tools. Here's an article that will help you with this. Or
Okay.
what else do it's also good for seeing like, okay, I have a kid who's failing, but they got 5 check marks. Clearly, they know the stuff, but they're not turning in stuff. So you could.
And how do they get the check marks? How do they?
So they get, this can occur during any kind of discussion that we're having, like if a student were doing reading comprehension and they just summarize it so well, or you walk by and you hear them having that conversation like that, you totally got it. So I'll go over and give them a check mark during class.
So it changes then, right?
Yeah, so each 5, I'm gonna do it 4.5 weeks because normally I did it every 9 weeks. So you have to earn those check marks like those 4.5 weeks we were focusing on short stories, writing narratives, writing, preliminary drafts of literary analyses, and just like the general short story vocab, grammar that we covered, things like common usage, run-on sentences, and things like that.
Okay.
So if they master it during a class session, they get a check mark. If they turn in some homework, that's like, wow, their writing was awesome. They could get their writing vocab and grammar if they had no mistakes. They used good vocab. But if they have not gotten all their check marks, so there's a lot of kids who hadn't demonstrated it, but on the test, if you make an A or a B, I can go through and look, okay, on the reading comprehension questions, you got 80% correct, so I'll give them a check. Check plus is you got 90% or more.
Check is 80. Okay, that's good.
Um,
That's really good. Hi, you did not not have to run. It's not that important. I just wanted to meet you guys one-on-one before I start crashing your classrooms and
Oh, nice,
and
yay.
talking with you. I'm Miss Morgan. I met you, Miss Morris, already. And then Miss Vargas, I spoke to you briefly this morning.
Totally meet, nice to
Yes.
meet you.
And so I really just have like 5 things I wanted to go over. One is my role. You guys have been working with Ms. Burke already. And I think Ms. Burke has a lot of other roles besides what she does too. So my focus is really just, until they give me other stuff, is just language arts and social studies.
Okay.
And then what I really want to hone in on is our continuous improvement plan, which I think there were teachers involved in writing that. But one of our goals is the 9th grade lit, and one of our goals is graduation rate, and what else is on there? There's some math and science courses on there too, but 9th grade lit is kind of, for our team, the one that we're